So this is the part where I'm going to ask you to engage with me a little bit using the chat function. And so actually pretend you didn't see that. So before I get started, when you hear the word hope, what are some terms that come to mind? What does hope mean for you? And again, use the chat function. My slides keep advancing. Good, thank you, Charlotte. Promise of something better. Anyone else? Things can get better. Good. Brighter future. Good. Thank you. Now you're using it. I appreciate that. Great. Great. So as you're still thinking about what hope means to you, let me ask this additional question. Is hope a feeling? Is it an emotion? Or is it a way of thinking? And again, use the chat function if you don't mind. So a few of you are saying both, and I just want to highlight that I didn't make that as an option. It is either a way of thinking or a feeling. So great. So here's how we define hope. Hope is the belief that your future will be better than today and that you have the power to make it so. We think about hope, or we define hope as a way of thinking. And the reason that that's so important in this context, and as we begin to think about the power of hope, the reason it's so important to consider it as a thinking process and not an emotion is because it can be taught. It is something that we can teach both children and adults. The other thing about this definition, the belief that the future will be better and that you have the power to make it so. If we stopped at the midpoint, hope is the belief the future will be better. That is optimism, which a few of you typed in. It's this last part of the definition that is so critical, that you have the power to make it so, distinguishes hope from just positive perspectives of the future. Hope is based upon these three categories, these three simple ideas. First is the idea that goals become the cornerstone of our ability to hope. So the goals that we set really dictate our potential for hope. The two main components include pathways thinking, which are really the roadmaps of how we're going to achieve our goals or pursue our goals. That is, how do we get there from here? And then the final part, willpower, is the mental energy or the motivation that we have to pursue those pathways. So goals, pathways, and willpower. What I want to do is distinguish a couple of things that we've learned about high trauma youth and their ability to set goals. So what we've learned, for instance, is that high trauma youth are much better at short-term goal setting than they are long-term goal setting. So starting to think about goals that are 24, 48 hours, or 1 week, they're much better at than long-term thinking. We refer to this actually as this idea of survival hope. When we're thinking about goals around our safety or goals around surviving, it's in the short term. The other thing that we've learned is that high trauma children and adults are more likely to set avoidant goals than they are to set achievement goals. And what I mean by that is when I set goals of things that I don't want to occur, it begins to influence the way I think about pathways. So if a child comes to me, for instance, and says, I want to stop fighting with my sister, that is from an avoidant framework. And the way they think about that goal is going to drive that pathways thinking. I'll give you a real quick example. I tend to use this in my presentations. I was homeless throughout high school. So from about 8th grade on, I spent most of my high school years couch surfing and staying in different locations. Now, when I graduated high school from, excuse me, from Helena, actually it was Helena Gultry at the time, Timberlake now in Northwest Oklahoma. When I graduated, The principal asked us to identify the goals that we had for the future. And I will tell you that when I was examining that process, it was the first time in several months or years that I've thought beyond where am I going to eat? Where am I going to sleep? Where am I going to be able to take a shower? And I started to think about what options I had. And my options, as I understood it, was I could work on somebody's farm, I could work at the local prison, I could join the military, or I could go to college. So I chose going to college, not to achieve a college degree, but to avoid the other options. As a result, my first semester grade point average at Northwestern Oklahoma State University is a 0.56. And what that means is I failed every class but one. And because my goal was to avoid the other option, my pathways were not about attending class or studying for exams. And so you can see that goals influence our pathways thinking. Goals, pathways, and willpower make up the core components of our ability to hope.